if that were to materialize, we're talking about pretty severe conditions by the end of the 21st century. So the IPCC just released a recent report dealing with what's called the 1.5 degrees Celsius threshold. So the Paris Climate Agreement, which was signed in 2015, the international parties that signed that agreement basically decided they wanted to know the difference between a 2 degrees Celsius warming, which is what parties had agreed to before, and a 1.5 degrees Celsius warming. So this study basically talks about a number of different impacts that might happen in the world under a 1.5 degrees Celsius and a 2 degrees Celsius scenario. And the conclusion of the study basically is that if we go to a 2 degrees Celsius scenario, the changes are going to be much more severe. And so the recommendation of the study basically is to go for the 1.5 degrees Celsius scenario. And so these changes might be things like increased heat waves, heavy precipitation rates, sea level rise, sea ice loss in the Arctic. So humans are contributing to climate change primarily through the release of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. And so these are things like carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide. This comes from burning emissions in our vehicles, from power plants, from agriculture, from fertilizer use, these kinds of things, as well as land use change. This 1.5 degree threshold that they're talking about in the study, they estimate that this could be reached as soon as 2030 or as late as 2050, so in the next 10 to 30 years. And I think some scientists are very pessimistic, actually, that this can be reached with our current technologies. I think it's ultimately up to us. It's up to our politicians, to our leaders, to decide whether they want to undergo massive changes necessary to meet this threshold. Ultimately, sort of, if there's sort of no action, this will likely be sort of the world that we live in by the end of the 21st century.